Nikola Tesla was born in 1856 in Smiljan, Croatia, then part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. His father was a priest in the Serbian Orthodox Church, and his mother managed the family's farm. In 1863, Tesla's brother Daniel was killed in a riding accident. The shock of the loss unsettled the 7-year-old Tesla, who reported seeing visions, the first signs of his lifelong mental illnesses. Did you know? During the 1890s, Mark Twain struck up a friendship with inventor Nikola Tesla. Twain often visited him in his lab, where, in 1894, Tesla photographed the great American writer in one of the first pictures ever lit by phosphorescent light. Tesla studied math and physics at the Technical University of Graz and philosophy at the University of Prague. In 1882, while on a walk, he came up with the idea for a brushless AC motor, making the first sketches of its rotating electromagnets in the sand of the path. Later that year, he moved to Paris and got a job repairing direct current DC power plants with the Continental Edison Company. 2 years later, he immigrated to the United States. 2 years after signing the Tesla contract, Westinghouse Electric was in trouble. The near collapse of Barings Bank in London triggered the financial panic of 1890, causing investors to call in their loans to Westinghouse Electric. The sudden cash shortage forced the company to refinance its debts. The new lenders demanded that Westinghouse cut back on what looked like excessive spending on acquisition of other companies, research, and patents, including the per-motor royalty in the Tesla contract. At that point, the Tesla induction motor had been unsuccessful and was stuck in development. Westinghouse was paying a $15,000 a year guaranteed royalty, even though operating examples of the motor were rare and polyphase power systems needed to run it were even rarer. In early 1891, George Westinghouse explained his financial difficulties to Tesla in stark terms, saying that, if he did not meet the demands of his lenders, he would no longer be in control of Westinghouse Electric, and Tesla would have to deal with the bankers to try to collect future royalties. The advantages of having Westinghouse continue to champion the motor probably seemed obvious to Tesla, and he agreed to release the company from the royalty payment clause in the contract. 6 years later, Westinghouse purchased Tesla's patent for a lump sum payment of $216,000 as part of a patent sharing agreement signed with General Electric, a company created from the 1892 merger of Edison and Thomson-Houston. The money Tesla made from licensing his AC patents made him independently wealthy and gave him the time and funds to pursue his own interests. In 1889, Tesla moved out of the Liberty Street shop Peck and Brown had rented, and for the next dozen years worked out of a series of workshop/laboratory spaces in Manhattan. These included a lab at 175 Grand Street, 1889 to 1892, the fourth floor of 33 to 35 South Fifth Avenue, 1892 to 1895, and 6th and 7th floors of 46 and 48 East Houston Street, 1895 to 1902. Tesla and his hired staff conducted some of his most significant work in these workshops. In the summer of 1889, Tesla traveled to the 1889 Exposition Universelle in Paris and learned of Heinrich Hertz's 1886 to 1888 experiments that proved the existence of electromagnetic radiation, including radio waves. In repeating and then expanding on these experiments, Tesla tried powering a Ruhmkorff coil with a high-speed alternator he had been developing as part of an improved arc lighting system, but found that the high-frequency current overheated the iron core and melted the insulation between the primary and secondary windings in the coil. To fix this problem, Tesla came up with his oscillating transformer. With an air gap instead of insulating material between the primary and secondary windings, and an iron core that could be moved to different positions in or out of the coil. Later called the Tesla coil, it would be used to produce high voltage, low current, high frequency alternating current electricity. Inventor. He would use this resonant transformer circuit in his later wireless power work. After an unsuccessful attempt to start his own Tesla electric light company and a stint digging ditches for $2 a day, Tesla found backers to support his research into alternating current. In 1887 and 1888, he was granted more than 30 patents for his inventions and invited to address the American Institute of Electrical Engineers on his work. His lecture caught the attention of George Westinghouse, the inventor who had launched the first AC power system near Boston and was Edison's major competitor in the Battle of the Currents. Westinghouse hired Tesla, licensed the patents for his AC motor, and gave him his own lab. In 1890, Edison arranged for a convicted New York murderer to be put to death in an AC-powered electric chair, a stunt designed to show how dangerous the Westinghouse standard could be. Buoyed by Westinghouse's royalties, Tesla struck out on his own again, but Westinghouse was soon forced by his backers to renegotiate their contract, with Tesla relinquishing his royalty rights. In the 1890s, Tesla invented electric oscillators, meters, improved lights, and the high-voltage transformer known as the Tesla coil. He also experimented with X-rays, gave short-range demonstrations of radio communication 2 years before Guglielmo Marconi, and piloted a radio-controlled boat around a pool in Madison Square Garden. In 1895, Tesla's New York lab burned, destroying years' worth of notes and equipment. Tesla relocated to Colorado Springs for 2 years, returning to New York in 1900. He secured backing from financier J.P. Morgan and began building a global communications network centered on a giant tower at Wardenclyffe on Long Island. But funds ran out, and Morgan balked at Tesla's grandiose schemes. Tesla lived his last decades in a New York hotel, working on new inventions even as his energy and mental health faded. His obsession with the number 3 and fastidious washing were dismissed as the eccentricities of genius. He spent his final years feeding, and he claimed communicating with, the city's pigeons. Tesla died in his room on January 7, 1943. Later that year, the U.S. Supreme Court voided 4 of Marconi's key patents, belatedly acknowledging Tesla's innovations in radio. The AC system he championed and improved remains the global standard for power transmission.